Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hey, welcome back to the Stepmom Side Podcast. I can't believe that I don't have a podcast episode about this. It's about how to manage the stress when you're in the middle of all of it, when stepping back isn't a possibility. Because let's be real, sometimes just take a step back sounds about as helpful as, have you tried yoga? Maybe you should meditate. Maybe you should journal, especially when your stepkid just told you that you're not their real mom and the ex is blowing up your partner's phone and there's spaghetti stuck to the ceiling. So listening to this episode, if you are a stepmom who can't step back in the moment, but still wants to avoid going full on meltdown mode. So let me just give you like a little backstory. Picture this. I'm trying to make dinner, keyword trying, and one of my stepkids walks in, looks at the food I've made and says, "Mom makes it better." Just what you don't want to hear, right? Just what you don't want to hear. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Let me just go ahead and throw this pan out the window then. I didn't step back. I didn't take a deep breath. I just dead ass stared into the pot like it was going to talk me down off the ledge. Because sometimes you don't have time to process the microaggression when you're busy burning the damn spaghetti. Or maybe nothing, and I mean nothing activates your stress response like the words, "Oh, I told the kids they could have a sleepover tonight with friends. I thought you'd be fine with it." No warning, no heads up, just a casual bomb drop on a Friday at 5 p.m. after you've worked all day, cleaned up everyone else's crap, and had dreams of watching anything that wasn't animated. You want to step back. But what you did instead was you rage cleaned the bathroom like it was a coping mechanism. Spoiler, it was. Any of these sound relatable? Because if so, like, you definitely want to listen to this. So what happens when stepping back isn't an option? Like when you're in it, and the chaos is full blast. There have been so many times where things are just, it feels like they're just spiraling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to handle this. Like, I feel like I'm going to like lose my mind. And I kind of talked about this on like episode number 106 with Anne-Marie Tresso. Like, it almost became like a challenge to me of like how, like a game, like how much I could take without like losing my mind. Like maybe all of the kids were there and like tension was not great. And like you knew it wasn't great, or you knew that they'd been around people that had said like not great things about you, and you have to like pretend like everything is okay. And any little sideways glance that you see from them sets you off. That might be like a personal like story for sure. But here's the thing. You're not failing because you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you're managing a job most people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. If you are multitasking, please come back to me because that's very important for you to hear. You're not failing as a stepmom because you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you're managing a job most people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. How many times has somebody said to you, "Oh, I could never be a stepmom," or "Oh, well, you knew what you signed up for," or "Why did you decide to date somebody with kids?" or "Why did you decide to marry someone with kids?" I don't know, because I didn't know it was going to be this bad, okay? How about we stop? So let's unpack how advice like just take a break isn't always helpful, because it's not. So that's the myth of like, just step back. Just step back sounds like a great idea. And in a perfect world, if I could just step back, I absolutely would. But guess what? I'm in the middle of like that scenario that I used with like the cooking. I'm in the middle of making dinner. This is what we're having for dinner. I would love to just throw the pan against the wall and be like, the hell with it, I'm not cooking this. But that's pretty mature. Like, absolutely not doing that. So it doesn't help to be like, oh, well, just take a break. Okay, well then what are we eating? Now we just wasted all this food, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's just not helpful. And sometimes when I would hear that in my early years as a stepmom, I would think, you think I haven't thought of this myself? Do you think that I have not thought of this myself? It would be great. But then there's all of these other pressures of like, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need. And it's insane, right? So I want to just tell you, and validate for you that stepmoms don't always have the space to walk away. Like I was just saying, like there's all of that outside pressure of like, you should do this, you have to do that. In order to be a good stepmom, you need to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, if I thought that that's what would make me a good stepmom is just like stepping back, maybe I would do it. However, that's not working. I can't just step back. Thanks though. And I think that makes it hard too, because you're like, I need the space. I want the space, but I don't have that space to walk away. Maybe you are full-time. Maybe your partner travels for work. Maybe it's a high conflict situation. There's so many variables of being a stepmom that it's never like one size fits all. That's why coaching is so important, because there are so many generalizations as far as like stepmom advice goes. And it matters. Your dynamic matters, because the generalized advice, tips, strategies, whatever, don't always work. So here's the guilt that comes from wishing you could disappear for a few hours or weeks, maybe. It sucks because it's like you get stuck in this loop of, I need to take a step back. I'm so maxed out right now. But then there's that guilt that's like, if you do step back, that means that you're failing. Everyone's hoping that you fail. Everyone's waiting for you to fail. Everyone's watching for you to fail. Or the kids are going to think that I don't love them. My partner's going to think that I'm not a good enough stepmom. Like, this means that I'm not cut out for this. Like, there's so much guilt that comes from that. So if one more person tells me to just take some space, I might take space in a hotel alone with room service indefinitely. Yes, please. How do you like sign up for that? Because I would like to go. You want to come? So let's talk about like a little bit of grounding in the chaos, like what to do when stepping away isn't possible. Micro moments of regulation. There's box breathing, and if you don't know what box breathing is, it's also known as square breathing. It's a simple yet effective breathing technique that can help calm the nervous system and promote relaxation. Really, it lowers your heart rate, and so your heart's not like pounding like boom, 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 boom. It like really lowers your heart rate, so it's really helpful. So here's how it works. You inhale for a count of 4. You hold the breath for a count of 4. You exhale for a count of 4, and then you hold the breath out for a count of 4. So resembling like the 4 sides of a box. So you inhale for 4, watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out. 2, 3, 4. It's hard to do when you're talking, but it feels like you're like running out of air. It's a lot easier to do, I promise, when you are not talking. So if I sounded weird, that's why. But putting your hand on your heart or your stomach, just like re-centering yourself and saying in your head, I'm safe, I'm in control. And here's the tricky thing about this. This might feel like a lie at first. So even if it feels like a lie at first, saying in your head, I'm safe, I'm in control. I'm safe, I'm in control. It feels ridiculous. Like you feel ridiculous, I promise, because I did too, but it absolutely helps. Find a mental container. Visualize putting all the stress into a literal box until later. It'll still be there. You don't have to hold on to it all. So figure out whatever that container looks like in your head. You can decorate it however you want, or you can just have it be like a literal cardboard box or whatever kind of container you want it to be. Visualize putting that in there. I'm a visual person, so that helps. And have you ever heard of, I'm sure you've heard of like compartmentalizing. Like I'm awesome at compartmentalizing, just like boxing things away and then like getting them out when you are ready to like go through them, which is almost never, especially if you're a stepmom. So there's also mantras for survival mode, because honestly, that's what it feels like you're in when you are going through these things. Things that work for me, like I said earlier, like I'm safe, I'm in control. I will also say I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm okay. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm okay. This is kind of like inner child healing for me. This is temporary is another one. This is temporary. It's not going to stay like this forever. I can feel my feelings without reacting to them, which is so important. I can feel my feelings without reacting to them. I know I kind of like poked fun at this earlier about meditating, but when I meditated on the regular, because I was like literally felt like I was losing my mind, I used the Calm app, and I would listen to this one meditation on the regular, and on there she would say, picture your feelings like thunderstorms that you were watching through a window just roll by. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so rather than like, I am an angry person, I feel angry. So that like was the mental shift for me. Like that change was just like I'm watching anger or sadness or grief or whatever it was, like just roll by. I wasn't those things. And then you could like respond to them without necessarily reacting to them. The last one, this is hard and I'm doing it. Or this is hard and I can do hard things. I'm okay. So 3 little things for you to work on here. Micro moments of regulation, the box breathing, putting your hand on your heart or your stomach, saying in your head, I'm safe and I'm in control. 2, find a mental container. Visualize putting stress in a literal box. 3, mantras for survival mode. This is temporary. I can feel my feelings without reacting to them. This is hard and I'm doing it. Or this is hard and I can do hard things. So then let's move on to when it's go time, not chill time. So let's talk about staying emotionally neutral when everyone else is spinning out. I don't know if this is you, but sometimes I have the opposite reaction emotionally from like the other person. Like if somebody else is spinning out or having a really hard time, like I all of a sudden like morph into this superhuman that like doesn't spin out or won't have a hard time or is like cool, calm, collected and like can do all of the things. And then if I'm emotionally spinning out, then sometimes it's hard for me to like get out of it. Like if you're a stepmom, like, you know, but it's one of those things about staying emotionally neutral when everyone else is spinning out is going back to this is temporary. That mantra of like, this is temporary. And I use this a lot with my daughter now. Like if she's having a really hard time, I can say she's allowed to struggle. She's allowed to have a hard time. Her having a meltdown has nothing to do with me. She's just having a hard time struggling. And so all I have to do is be present and be there. I don't always have to say something. Same thing with my stepkids if they're having a hard time. Sometimes like the best thing they want is somebody just to listen. And sometimes we're like, oh, we feel weird or awkward in like the silence. And so we just have to fill the silence. And you don't necessarily have to do that. Next thing, how to shift your energy from reactive to responsive. Yes, even when you're being poked like a damn bear. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, but when you are triggered and you are like reacting to things, like that knee-jerk reaction, that's not a good space to live in, right? Like the fight or flight or just like reacting to whatever is happening. But responsive is when you're watching your emotions roll by like a thunderstorm. Like you're just watching them like, oh, okay, yeah, and this sounds so ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, I'm feeling angry right now. But you don't have to let it consume you. This, I will tell you, takes so much freaking practice. And then start with small things, and then eventually you'll get there, and then 6 months from now, you'll look back, like if you practice these things, you'll look back and say, oh, wow, I've actually made a massive difference. Next thing for like when it's go time, not chill time, is drop the shoulds. You don't have to parent like your partner. You don't have to rise above every single time, you know, like the saying of like, be the bigger person. No, you don't have to, like all of the shoulds, like you should show up to every single event. You should, you know, try to buy your stepkids' love. You should, you know, make sure that your house is completely spotless every time they come over. You should insert whatever it is. Stop. Like the shoulds, like shoulds, woulds, and coulds, like those things are going to make you lose your mind because it's just like, well, I could do this, right? Well, I don't necessarily want to do that. Or I would do this, but I'm currently doing something else. Or I should do that, but insert whatever. I think you get the point. But it's just like should, would, and could are words that you should lose from your stepmom vocabulary because it's just like you can never win with those words. You can never win. And the last thing about this part is sometimes the win is you didn't scream. Sometimes the win is you didn't cry. Sometimes you win because you didn't throw the laundry basket. Sometimes the win is your stepkid said hi when they entered the room. That's enough. Like sometimes the wins are so small and we are so caught up in wanting the wins to be these big, massive wins, and they're not. There's these small wins. Girlfriend, if you are multitasking, please come back to me. Celebrate the small wins. Celebrate that you didn't scream. Celebrate that you didn't cry. Celebrate that you didn't throw the laundry basket. Celebrate, maybe not necessarily outwardly, that your stepkid said hello, or you guys made it through the day without screaming at each other or exchanging terrible looks. Or maybe you weren't mean to your partner about something, or you didn't flip out on them about something that happened. A win is a win. I literally just messaged that to somebody this morning on a DM when she said, I know, but I'm struggling with this. This has gone really well, but I'm still struggling with that. I'm like, that is a win. This small thing that you just told me, that is still a win. A win is a win, is a win, is a win, is a win. It doesn't matter how freaking small is it. So now let's talk about releasing the stress after the moment. So you held it together. Now what? Because that energy isn't, just because you held it together doesn't mean that it's just like gone. No, you're still amped up. You're still like feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, and you need to get something done, or you need to like get that energy out. So let it out, whether you cry, whether you journal, whether you walk, whether you scream into a pillow, text your best friend, like WTF was that, whether you post in the community, oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened. Here's what's going on. And you can get support from other stepmoms that are in there. But don't let that hard moment define your day. Process it, like get it out, get it off of your chest. Don't marinate in it. Again, this is where the Stepmom Side community comes in really great, because you can type it all out in the community and other stepmoms can come in and be like, you handled this really well. I would make a few tweaks here, or, I would change how you handled this there. Like, don't marinate in it, because sometimes when you deal with somebody that's like high conflict, or something happens, it's high conflict, sometimes that person will say something just because they know it will get you, and they don't ever think about it again, but you spend the whole day thinking about it. Or they do something and you can't get over the fact that they did that, where they haven't thought about it like for the rest of the day, and it just lives rent free in your head. Girlfriend, that is not good for you. I don't need to tell you that, but that is not good for you. And let's talk about how to talk about it later with your partner without spiraling into a fight. And I'll give you a hint. When that happened earlier, I felt blank, insert whatever emotion, is such a better statement than you never stand up for me whenever, there's a last minute schedule change. One is you're coming at it from, I feel this, and it sounds so elementary, which I know because I have absolutely thought that before too, but it's so much better than throwing spears at your partner. You never do this. You never do that. I'm always all of the things, like you already know. So here's a recap. You are not weak for feeling the stress. You are strong as fuck for staying in the room and handling it. Here's what we went over today. The myth of just step back. That would be so great if we could just step back, right? And then we talked about how to just like ground yourself in the midst of the chaos. Then we talked about when it's go time and not chill time, like if people are spiraling and how you should handle it. And then we talked about releasing the stress after the moment. Like, even though you didn't flip out, which amazing, great job for you. You didn't flip out. But we still need to get that energy out of your body. So here's your reminder. If you're struggling with staying regulated in the middle of the mess, you are not alone. It doesn't mean that you're a bad stepmom at all. If you want or need more support for those moments, I've mentioned it a few times in here, but come hang out in the Stepmom Side community. It's the only place where losing your cool doesn't make you lose your seat at the table. Or if you are starting to feel resentment, you can go join the resentment to the relief course or get some coaching. Like, you've got to work through this. Like, it's going to be one of those things that this will absolutely like eat you alive. But yeah, thank you so much for listening today. I will chat with you next week. Thanks for taking time to listen to this week's episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crosco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.